As Marshal of the University, it is my honor to declare open the proceedings of the 522nd Convocation of the University of Chicago and to introduce the university's 13th president, Robert J. Zimmer. Please be seated.
Good afternoon and welcome. As the Marshal has just announced, today's ceremony is the 522nd time that the University of Chicago has assembled for a convocation. From the time that classes began here in the fall of 1892, the university has held a convocation ceremony at the end of every quarter, allowing students to be recognized and celebrated for their achievements immediately upon completion of their studies, and to do so through formal exercises, just as we do today. The primary purpose of convocation is, of course, to award degrees. But these occasions serve other important objectives as well. At convocation number 1, on January 2nd, 1893, the university's first president, William Rainey Harper, set out goals for these ceremonies, goals which, after all this time, we continue to observe. Harper believed these occasions of high ceremony to be a necessary and nourishing part of the life of a university, and intended them to literally call together or cause to assemble all parts of the university community. In Harper's words, convocations are meant to bind together into a unity the many complex and diverging forms of activity which constitute our university's life and work. Today's ceremony, then, is also about reflecting upon the whole of what we do across the many laboratories, libraries, and classrooms that make up our campus. And in addition, it affords us all a moment to reflect upon the accomplishments of our past and the opportunities and aspirations for our future, individually, collectively, and institutionally. I confer the degrees awarded this afternoon by authority delegated to me by the university's Board of Trustees, represented today by Trustee Mary Lou Gorno, and I do so on behalf of the faculty of the University of Chicago that has responsibility for the educational programs recently completed. I welcome you again to the 522nd Convocation, a time-honored ritual that recognizes achievements of which we can all be proud.
As Provost of the University of Chicago, it is my privilege to introduce Kenneth Pomeranz, who will present today's Convocation Address. Professor Pomeranz became the university's 18th university professor when he joined our faculty in 2012. University professors are selected for their internationally recognized eminence in their chosen fields and represent the highest scholarly aims of our institution. As an expert on China, he has helped shape contemporary discussions concerning global history and economic development in the East and the West. His research extends the study of history across the social sciences and humanities and has made an impact on multiple disciplines. Much of his work concerns the relationships among social, economic, environmental, and political change from the 18th century to the present, mostly in China, but often with reference to parallel or related processes elsewhere. Professor Pomeranz is currently working on several books, one of which considers the history of land and water rights in late imperial and modern China and their implications for social structure and economic development. Another book, entitled "Why is China So Big?" examines the development and persistence of political unity in China. He is the only scholar who has been recognized twice with the American Historical Association's John K. Fairbank Prize for Outstanding Scholarship in East Asian History for his books, The Great Divergence, China, Europe, and the Making of the Modern World Economy, and The Making of a Hinterland, State, Society, and Economy in Inland North China, 1853 through 1937. He has received numerous awards, including fellowships from the American Council of Learned Societies, the American Philosophical Society, the Guggenheim Foundation, the Institute for Advanced Study, and the National Endowment for the Humanities. As president of the American Historical Association, and more locally as chair of the Department of History and principal investigator on the multi-institutional grant, Professor Pomeranz has started a national conversation on ways to better prepare graduate students for careers both inside and outside of the academy. The title of his address today is Striving for Incompleteness. Please join me in welcoming University Professor Kenneth Pomeranz, 522nd Convocation speaker. Kenneth.
Thank you very much. It is a great honor to be here. And it says some wonderful things about the University of Chicago that my instructions for today were, talk about your research, something that is rarely part of convocation speeches elsewhere. But even here, we do not talk about research at convocation the same way we talk about it at academic conferences. So relax. There will be no estimates of peasants' caloric intake, analyses of deforestation, or reflections on the evolution of Chinese statecraft. Looking back for guidance, an occupational hazard for historians, I checked what the last historian to have this honor, my colleague Adam Green, had said. He discussed a trend well outside history, what is sometimes called positive psychology or happiness research, and its possible connection to his own field of African American history. That's U of C, interdisciplinarity are us. I also noted a sobering comment in Adam's talk about a famous early 20th century historian of slavery, that though this man was clearly a gifted scholar, his work had made the world worse by painting a persuasive but false picture of harmonious plantations and of people unsuited for freedom. Let me also start with a psychologist's work, that of Daniel Kahneman, who won a Nobel Prize for fundamental contributions to behavioral economics, and with another idea about how compelling history can in fact be bad for you. The joint exercise is, I hope, not a bad proxy for thinking about what U of C achieves by insisting that education be more than technical. So while this talk is, of course, about congratulating you and wishing you well, it aims more squarely at part of a question that nags at many graduates and parents. What did I learn here? What am I prepared for? Kahneman's basic point is that humans are hardwired to resist thinking statistically, relying instead on snap judgments and emotionally powerful stories that are mostly rationalizations of those snap judgments. In one illustration, he describes telling people that the counties in the United States with the lowest rates of kidney cancer are mostly small rural ones, which tend to be in the South or Midwest, have high rates of church attendance, vote Republican, and so on. Many people hearing this will quickly put these facts together, framing a story in which outdoor living, fresh food, and firm morals explain good health. But then Kahneman notes that the counties with the highest rates of kidney cancer are also mostly small and rural, usually Southern or Midwestern, have high rates of church attendance, and lean Republican. People hearing this assemble a story about poverty, isolation, ignorance, and lax regulation. The real explanation is simply that kidney cancer is rare. Thus, counties with big populations will have rates clustering around the national mean, while some counties with small populations will be very far from the mean in either direction. Just as 51% of any major hospital's births over a year will be boys, but the figure for some days will be 20% or 80%. The only relevant fact about the exceptional counties turns out to be their small populations. But we are misled by our desire to have a story explaining all the facts, and perhaps also one that confirms our stereotypes. This has disturbing implications for the common sense we use in daily life, and you can probably see why it is also disturbing for historians, even those, like myself, who like to quantify when we can. Unable to do experiments, we often begin evaluating arguments by asking if they are consistent with all confirmed facts, which can easily slide into preferring the argument that claims to explain all confirmed facts, as Kahneman catches people doing. And indeed, the only index entry for history in his 400-plus page book references the assertion that, quote, our tendency to construct and believe coherent narratives of the past deludes us into trusting incompetent experts. To avoid this, history must always bear in mind that being consistent with all confirmed facts is very different from explaining them all. Parsimonious explanation, much as we prize it, is a two-edged sword. Historians talk endlessly about reading in contexts, that you only really get Lincoln's second inaugural when you know how its key words were being used in 1865 and what others wanted to do with the South, or that to grasp why people joined China's Taiping Rebellion, one must read what they, or their literate neighbors, said about everything from landlord-tenant relations to spirit possession to rumors about collusion between Manchu officials and British opium traders. This may seem to call for constructing a total story from the fragmentary record. Geoffrey Elton's 1967 classic, The Practice of History, urged us to study our subjects, quote, until one knows what they are going to say next. But contextual knowledge never really yields predictive certainty. At best, it lets us bound the range of things our subjects might have said or done next, and to see how those possibilities were changing. In other words, reconstructing context shows us what room was left for actors to matter. Thus, the incompleteness that the historian reaches. And one has to strive for that incompleteness because Kahneman is right. Our default is to want a total deterministic picture. And it takes intellectual, perhaps even moral discipline to simultaneously accumulate knowledge, arrange it systematically, and stop ourselves before we go too far. This is incompleteness achieved and preserved against our natural but dangerous tendency to think we know enough to close our stories and to render new information unsurprising and unthreatening. Excessively complete history has often taken a very specific form, that of tales held together by focusing on a nation and imputing to it a single, pervasive, and self-perpetuating character. We know, of course, that nations have never been either homogeneous within nor isolated from broader influences without. Yet national identities and the interests reinforcing them have been so strong in modern times that we have repeatedly succumbed to the temptation to make nations into units for explaining and unifying all the facts, reading their social structure or culture as destiny. And while more and more cutting-edge historical research works with other kinds of units, tracing long-distance flows of people, commodities, ideas, and germs, or networks of co-religionists, trading partners, practitioners of some craft or science, or denizens of some ocean basin, our curricula at Chicago and elsewhere are still dominated by more familiar units, units such as China, Mexico, the United States. This is less true of, say, anthropologists or sociologists. Now, we may have here some elements of the kind of laziness that Kahneman points to, indulging our own or our students' weakness for all-inclusive stories that recreate known types, albeit in more sophisticated forms, even though, when we pursue our research, we know enough to be more rigorous. Yet there's also something more positive going on here. While few of us want to argue anymore that one can tie together falling birth rates, Third Republic politics, and fin de siècle artistic movements into a nice, neat package called France 1870 to 1914, we can legitimately expect some explanatory gain from juxtaposing those things, because we know that the same people experienced all of them. Sobered by the failures of various all-encompassing models, from classical Marxism to modernization theory, we bring these different registers together now, not to reduce them all to effects of some new master variable, but because our search for differentiated explanations of what was possible in specific realms must cast a wide net. The most crucial constraints in any sphere of action are often not enunciated because they are taken for granted. These include, on the one hand, material conditions like rainfall and the location of mineral deposits that really are given, or rules devised to cope with those givens, which change so slowly that we can take them as fixed over fairly long periods and then track their effects, as some of my own work does. On the other hand, these taken for granted constraints also include a given group's strongly held assumptions, which may be equally binding in the short run and equally invisible. Mainstream lives, for instance, may be powerfully shaped by ideas about what is natural to men and women, which seem so obvious that they only surface explicitly in non-mainstream sources. In the archives of an orphanage that found it had to teach these supposedly natural roles after all, in local miracle tales that encode exceptions to nature, or in the manifesto of an organization that always remained on the fringes precisely because it denied the common sense of its time. In fact, sometimes what is taken for granted only surfaces when the historian, him or herself, introduces comparisons with a partially analogous situation elsewhere. So the contexts, national or otherwise, through which we seek to understand what was possible aren't simply things we find in our documents or inherit from the last historian to study something. We build and rebuild them, somewhat on the fly, to answer an ever-shifting set of questions. By doing so, we get better at understanding the interplay of structure, agency, and culture in some particular time and place, and at developing ways for understanding that interplay in other half-known situations. That brings us back to why we are here today. Because while only a handful of you are or will be historians, all of you are and will be historical actors. And because our university, both in its curriculum and in its culture, a culture that you have both reproduced and left your mark on in a nice example of structure and agency, because this university is unusually insistent that you reflect from many different angles, not only upon what you learn, but upon what can be learned, you are equipped not only to find and act on the stories and the facts, but to stop yourself from leaping on stories that the facts do not need. For those of us who remain here as you leave, one joy of our work is teaching people who will carry on what we do. But an equal joy is helping people who will do very different things get some sense of what we do and how doing likewise may help them as they assess and shape the limits of what's possible in their fields. So along with congratulations and good luck, let me say thank you for being part of that. Your educations here are complete. Now go forth and strive for incompleteness. Thank you.
spirit sang all day, oh my joy, nothing my tongue can say, only my joy. My heart an echo caught, oh my joy, and sake, turn and I thought, I'd lost my joy. My eyes are near, oh my joy, what beauty hast thou found? Show us thy joy. My jealousy is cruelest, oh my joy, music from heaven is sent for my joy. She also came and heard, oh my joy, what says she is this word? What is thy joy? And I replied, oh sing, oh my joy, 'tis thee, I cried, 'tis thee. Thou art my joy.
As we begin the presentation of degrees, may I call your attention to the award of honors listed in the convocation program, as well as the names of candidates receiving degrees today in absentia. At this time, in the favoring presence of the congregation here assembled, the deans of several faculties or their appointed representatives will present the candidates for academic degrees to the president of the university. The Dean of the College will now present candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science in programs in the college.
Mr. President, these students have completed the prescribed program of undergraduate studies, and on behalf of the faculty of the college, I now have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science, and welcome you to the Fellowship of Educated Men and Women.
Kego Agata, Charles Joseph Argue, Erica Carmona, Ethan Andrew Curry, James Derek Estevar, Caitlin Emma Falahay, Garrett T. Fox, Vadim Formanov, Christopher Jonathan Gordon, Fanning Gu, Stephanie Ying Wan, Paul Kyochil Kim, Ki Kyo, Ian Chien Liu, Ted Christopher Nemec, Kylie Marie Nola, Wong Pei Pu, Jennifer Rebecca Susan Roselle, Hanshi Wang, Wei-Ti Shao, Kai-Shi Xiu, Shung Yun Yang.
Mr. President, I have the honor of presenting a student marshal from the class of 2014. Appointed for her excellent record in academic studies and her contributions to the university and its community, she has served with distinction as a student marshal. Patricia Sticknoth.
The Dean of the William B. and Catherine V. Graham School of Continuing Liberal and Professional Studies will now present candidates for the degree of Master of Liberal Arts in programs in the Graham School.
Mr. President, these students have completed the program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the William B. and Catherine V. Graham School of Continuing Liberal and Professional Studies. I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Master of Liberal Arts.
You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in the liberal arts, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Liberal Arts, and I express the hope that your learning will lead you to advance knowledge in or enrich the practice of your chosen field.
Kristen Mary Finkbeiner. Vladimir Milovich Versov. Michael C. Griffin. Simone Lee Quinn. Jennifer Straight.
The Dean of the Division of the Biological Sciences and the Pritzker School of Medicine will now present candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in programs in the Division of the Biological Sciences and the Pritzker School of Medicine.
Mr. President, each of the students I now present has attained scholarly distinction in advanced studies and has prepared a dissertation that contributes to knowledge in a particular field of research. On behalf of the faculty of the Division of the Biological Sciences and the Pritzker School of Medicine, I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
Samuel William Baker. Tracy Renee Kantarski. Paulette Krishak. Michael Aneo Powers. Edwin Ernesto Reyes.
The Dean of the Division of the Humanities will now present candidates for their degree of Master of Arts and Doctor of Philosophy in programs in the Division of the Humanities.
Mr. President, these students have completed the program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the Division of the Humanities and the special programs approved by their departments. I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Master of Arts.
You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in the humanities, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts, and I express the hope that your learning will lead you to advance knowledge in or enrich the practice of your chosen field.
Meredith Aiden Moretz. Goda Thangada. Mr. President, each of the students I now present has attained scholarly distinction in advanced studies and has prepared a dissertation that contributes to knowledge in a particular field of research. On behalf of the faculty of the Division of the Humanities, I now have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
Tobias Yoho. Michael Joseph Lacroix, Alexander Lee, Andrew Elon Yale,
The Dean of the Division of the Physical Sciences will now present candidates for the degree of Master of Science and Doctor of Philosophy in programs in the Division of the Physical Sciences.
Mr. President, these students have completed the program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the Division of the Physical Sciences and the special programs approved by their departments. I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Master of Science.
You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in the physical sciences, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Science, and I express the hope that your learning will lead you to advanced knowledge in or enrich the practice of your chosen field.
Youngray Chen, Yang Cho, Yang Feng, Spencer Peter Kamchi, Yuefeng Liang, Jeffrey Stephen Rohala, Bradley James Satterfield, John G. Shin, Mark John Zamansky, Yue Wan, Mr. President, each of the students I now present has attained scholarly distinction in advanced studies and has prepared a dissertation that contributes to knowledge in a particular field of research. On behalf of the faculty of the Division of the Physical Sciences, I now have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
Michael Thomas Horrell, Hao Wang, Robert Kingman Lanzer, Jr., Dawei Li, Luyo Lu, Shrikant Veera Raghavan, Chenyo Shu, Junjia Jai,
The Dean of the Division of the Social Sciences will now present candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in programs in the Division of the Social Sciences.
Mr. President, each of the students I now present has attained scholarly distinction in advanced studies and has prepared a dissertation that contributes to knowledge in a particular field of research. On behalf of the faculty of the Division of Social Sciences, I now have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
Amir Sean Ferdowsi, James Ivenyuk, Jake William Werner,
The Dean of the University of Chicago Booth School of Business will now present candidates for the degrees of International Master of Business Administration, Master of Business Administration, and Doctor of Philosophy in programs in the Booth School.
Mr. President, this student has completed the program of professional studies prescribed by the faculty of the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. I now have the honor to present him as a candidate for the degree of International Master of Business Administration.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of International Master of Business Administration, and I express the hope that your work will further global understanding and responsible development of international business for the benefit of all people.
Jin Wayne. Mr. President, these students have completed the program of professional studies prescribed by the faculty of the University of Chicago Booth School of Business. I now have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Master of Business Administration.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Business Administration, and I express the hope that your work will further wise choices in the allocation of economic resources for the benefit of all people.
Matthew Charles Abernathy, Joseph Paul Adamczyk, Meredith Martin Addy, Adetayo Adeguke, Aribola Ajike, Olafuncho Ayudeji Akera, Ruslan Aksayatov, Sergei Alexandrov, Bader Musad Al-Sayir, Vasily George Alukos, Nestor Alvarado, Harmeet Singh Arora, Sunil Arora, Claudio Azzarati, Matthew Keith Autry, Kim Avanesian, Satyasai Charan Avasarala, Stephanie Lynn Bach, Marcus Bader, Lana Juan Bays, Sergei Balzhikov, Amardeep Singh Bamra, David Joseph Barrich, William Taylor Barker III, R. Scott Bartmus, Parag Baraka, Luca Benejamo, Vikram Bezawada, Kilan Bhatt, Chodak Pikchanchit, Jignesh Kumar Elbored, Anastasia Burrell, Dean Kenneth Borges, Asa Budadi, Michael Bausch, Robert Dean Bauer, Lauren Marie Brennan, Carolyn Elizabeth Brewer, Kestudis Broniokiadis, Rory Bukovsa, Daniel Edward Burke, Vitaly Burov, Mark Kenton Butzo, Patrick Earl Byers, Stephen John Burns, Kuyo Campilo Yamasedo, Francesco Cantone, Michael David Cathy, Sebastian Thureto Montanez, Sebastian Champagny, Vince Chan, Sandeep Chandran, Sylvan Charles, Rahul Narayan Chaudhary, Anand Chavali, Venkata Anand Kumar Chavali, Tong Chen, Satishnath Chenareddy, Charles Austin Cooper, Terence Patrick Coyne, Dolaire Liberté Crozon Kazan Kaboop, Kishore K. Dandu, Will Martin Dardani, Ali Esmail Dashti, Christian Gomez da Silva, Raju V. Datla, Sarah Elise de Roons, Samir S. Deshmukh, Louis Charles Develex, Eric Deere, Joseph Christian DiNardo, Peter McLaren Dobson II, Jack Stephen Doig, Lauren Ann Doig, Bradley Paul Donahue, M. Imran Dotani, Jan Drahota, Natalia Drozdova, Darren Carl D'Souza, Daniel Leo Dufresne, Nithin Dutt, Hoi John Yeer, Christopher John Ellie, Basil Mohammed Vagdi Aleva, Paul Richard Elo, Amir Ahmed Faruqi, Lee Ira Feder, Arnstein Peter Fiel, Derek Michael Floyd, Andrew James Federer, Nicholas Fostitas, Mark Jeffrey Frankel, Stephen Kenner Frankel, Irina Friedman, Kenneth Garcia, Konstantin Jantiroglu, Yongha Go, Weiping Go, Alexandra Kokavina Goodwin, Sumanth Gopal, Abhinav Goyal, Ashish Goyal, Raju Goyal, Jesse Graff, Joseph Lamar Greer, Matthew W. Griffith, Christian Charles Grimm, Michael Lawrence Guido, Yalsan Gungaran, Dinesh Gupta, Adam Russell Hall, Stephanie Kate Hano, Yuladslav Gergikov, Rubam Herzog, Anne Whiting Hickman, Seamus Michael Hines, Eric David Hirsch, Brian Dean Hogan, Jerry Hogan, Brent Thomas Hovland, Sinia Hui, Haider Hussein, Mushtaq Hussein, Heather Renee Hutton, Guy Nicholas Ingram, Prem Iyer, Kai Michael Yon, Rona Ela Johnson, Rajesh Kumar Joshi, Venkatesh Kalipi, Rajshekhar Kamath, Shivafani K. Kapavarapu, Ishan Kapoor, Jacqueline Ann Carroll, Dmitry Katiev, Isi Gregory Cato, Joanna Jean Call, Rahul Call, Melissa Ann Carney, Patrick Robert Kenna, Abdul-Jabbar Yusinovich Halilov, Shashank Khanna, Jonghoon Kim, Philip Clay, Stephanie Lynn Klein, Jennifer Nipper, Krishna Chaitanya Konkimala, Maria Alexandrovna Krasnikova, Alexander Leon Kronik, Masahiro Kumakura, Nishant Kumar, Agnieszka Maria Kivyachen Yanyets, Scott Michael Langto, Horacio Arturo Larios Jr., Pete Lee, Budi Rahaujo Lagoa, Thomas C. Lewandowski, Jin Lee, Xiao Li, Jijun Li, Shenghui Lim, Michael Chungchen Lin, Darwin Ling, Beth A. Lin, Vladimir Loktinov, Andre Lialko, William Thomas McFadden, Hausun Ma, Christoph Mahler, Harshavardhan Majeti, Preetha Majumdar, Maxim Marchevsky, Matthew Albert May, James Patrick McCaffrey, Andrus Minichus, Megan Elizabeth Mooney, Hitoya Motano, Mansour Muhammadajic, Marcelo Menabarito Musoy, Yapeng Nan, Miriam Nantambi, Colin D. Nash, Walter Albert Nashert IV, Aditi Mayur Nayak, Ronnie Kui Hong Ying, Teresa Nguyen, Derek Joseph Nedzwicki, Anthony Lawrence Norman, Azat Nugamanov, Daniel Justin Nyhan. Hiroshi Okura. Joshua Thomas Olison. Lauren Elizabeth Olson. Matthew Kenneth Page. Abhishek Pakira. Brian Robert Poplawski. Jonathan Sang-Ho Park. Stephen Pasilich. Ankit A. Patel. Santosh B. Patil. Luke Gerard Peacock. Matthew Faw. Sushilan Pillai. Amit Prakash. Sarah Nicole Press. Kunal Vijay Puri. Arun Ramamurthy. Kartik Kulanda Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramdev. Srividya Ramkumar. Sandeep Deepak Randari. Timothy Roshak. Nathan Riggle. Nathaniel Joseph Roberts. Peter Rowland. Robert Daniel Rochittle. Rudy. Parajat Sahai. Anthony John Saladino Jr. Anton Samurai. Gaganjit Singh Sandhu. Eshwar Vanchi Sankar. Satish Savant. Thomas Schaffbauer. Ryan Michael Schaffernacher. Sebastian Francisco Schmid. Andre Schrader. Felix Anton Schoup. Mauro Schuchetti. Yet Wei Sir. Shirag R. Shah. Priyesh A. Shah. Tanvi Sharma. Thomas Philip Sherman. Chanshui Shai. Miyuki Shimazu. Olga Shempolova. Rishi Ranjan Singh Sr. Sebastian Skoransky. Karen Matris Smith. Jeremy Clayton Smith. Hervé Marcel Sotomayor. Carlos A. Sotomayor Sologorin. Sarah Shireen Spector. Scott Edward Spirit. Casey Lynn Spitz. Srinath Srinivasan. John Henry Statza. Michelle Christoph Straga. Madhusudan Subramanian. Tim Su. Joshua D. Susser. Prem Tadapatri. Jun Takai. Joanna Marie Takla. Suat Hoon Tan. Youngyi Tan. Haluk Kent Tanik. Timur Tavbaritza. Aaron Tiam Yong Tae. Johnny Chai Hang Teo, Lee Hong Teo, Brian Carlos Thompson, Pei Ling Tin, Chatai Topcha, Yuri Tapunov, Matthew James Toten, Rahul Kumar Trivedi, Yuri Trofimov, Nolan E. Turner, Mukund Govind Umlakar, Ilgar A. Valiev, Gregoire Valentin, Sergei Valauska, Lauren Scott Van Dyke, Sharman Raymond Van Holstein, Basul Vias Vazur, Mark Aguilar Villar, Primal Amit Vora, Branislav Vukaslavovich, Nigel Glenn Walker, Brian Reynolds Walsh, Peter Alexander Wardle, Michael Weinstock, Maurice Wild, James Gerald Williams, Chao Shi, Heng Shi, Shruti Yalamarti, Victor Areno Yap, Natalie Yarmit, Alexis Benjamin Cantoria Zaragoza III, Strahinya Zarkovich, Islam Osama Zikri, Ting Zhang, Izhan Zhang, Yan Zhou, Ilya Vladimirovich Jolobov, Vladimir Zimotsev,
Mr. President, the students I now present have attained scholarly distinction in advanced studies and have prepared a dissertation which contributes to knowledge in a particular field of research. On behalf of the faculty of the University of Chicago Booth School of Business, I have the honor to present them as candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and welcome you to this ancient and honorable company of scholars.
William Minsuek Cha. Reagan J. Tennant.
The Dean of the Divinity School will now present candidates for the degree of Master of Divinity and Master of Arts in programs in the Divinity School.
Mr. President, the student I now present is academically qualified to engage in the profession of ministry, having completed a course of study prescribed by the faculty of the Divinity School. I have the honor to present her as a candidate for the degree of Master of Divinity.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Divinity, and I express the hope that your work will contribute to a learned and effective ministry dedicated to the spiritual welfare of humankind.
Erica Dornfeld. Mr. President, This student has completed a program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the Divinity School for foundational education in the academic study of religion. I have the honor to present him as a candidate for the degree of Master of Arts.
You have successfully completed a program of advanced study in divinity, and by virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts, and I express the hope that your learning will lead you to advanced knowledge in or enrich the practice of your chosen field.
Matthew Alexander Kuda.
The Deputy Dean of the Irving B. Harris Graduate School of Public Policy Studies will now present candidates for the degree of Master of Arts in programs in the Harris School.
Mr. President, this student has completed the program of studies prescribed by the faculty of the Irving B. Harris Graduate School of Public Policy Studies. I now have the honor to present him as a candidate for the degree of Masters of Arts.
By virtue of the authority delegated to me, I confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts, and I express the hope that your work will improve our understanding of public policy.
Olong Song.
Please stand for the singing of the university's alma mater. Please be seated.
This is a special day for all of you upon whom I have just conferred a degree, and it is a special day for the family members and friends who may be here to join you. It marks the completion of your study, or at least one phase of that study, a path that I trust has been challenging. I hope you are enjoying this moment of celebration and perhaps moment of reflection that this convocation affords. You are now all graduates of the University of Chicago. Because of your achievements that we celebrate here today with your family and friends, each of you will always be connected to the University of Chicago, a connection that I hope you and we will foster for many years. The University of Chicago is an institution driven from its inception by an idea that one could create and continuously renew a university focused on rigorous, intense inquiry and analysis. The university, through its work every day, expresses the view that clarity derives from the clash of ideas, the challenge of assumptions, and the willingness to accept answers only when they meet the tests of argument. We seek understanding that is complex, expandable, and fluid, rather than simple and rigid. An understanding that reflects analysis rather than ideology, that accepts complexity over the comfort of simplicity, that seeks to delineate both the power and the limitations of argument, and that is always ready to incorporate new data which can emerge and which in fact must be sought. We believe that the best education, the most empowering education, and the most powerful learning take place in the environment of constant challenge that is implicit in this culture of rigorous inquiry, and that this culture is responsible for producing ideas of power and importance to humankind. This focus on rigorous inquiry has defined the University of Chicago, its research, and its education at all levels since the university's beginning, and it continues to do so today. The university and its culture are renewed every day by the work of its faculty, students, and staff. And while it is natural to focus on your own achievements today and what they mean for your future, you can also take great satisfaction in your contribution to the ongoing renewal of your university, the University of Chicago. I know that as graduates of this university, in the coming years, you will be called upon to act, to speak, and to lead. And like so many University of Chicago graduates who have come before you, you will approach the challenge of leadership empowered by your University of Chicago education. The power of analysis and ideas that you have experienced here and that are now your own will serve you wherever your path takes you and whatever challenges you confront. Each of you who has received a degree today has received help and support from parents, family, spouses, partners, children, friends, mentors, or university faculty and staff. And while it is your achievements that we mark today, all of these supporters can rightly take great pride in your accomplishment. And so to all degree recipients, please accept my congratulations for all you have achieved. I wish you all good fortune and happiness in the years ahead. Enjoy your coming adventures wherever they may lead you. Congratulations.
Sing
This now concludes the 522nd Convocation of the University of Chicago. Crescat scientia, vita escolator, let knowledge grow from more to more, and so be human life enriched.